2012, 19-year-old Stefan El Shaarawy stood in front of one of the biggest decisions of his life. He had to choose between playing for Italy or playing for Egypt. He chose Italy, which seemed like a sensible choice. Italy were 4 times World Cup champions, whereas Egypt have only qualified for the competition twice in their history. He was much more likely to have success at the most prestigious competition in football playing for Italy. 14 years later, El Shaarawy is 33 and has never played at the World Cup. If he had chosen to play for Egypt, he would be looking to make his second World Cup appearance this summer. And it's not just him. Players like Jorginho, Domenico Berardi, Giovanni Di Lorenzo, Francesco Acerbi, or Leonardo Spinazzola will most likely finish their careers without ever playing at the World Cup. Alessandro Bastoni, Nicolo Barella, Gianluigi Donnarumma, Federico Di Marco, Moise Kean, Federico Chiesa, or Manuel Locatelli will be in their 30s by the time they have their next chance of playing at their first World Cup. Legends like Giorgio Chiellini, Leonardo Bonucci, Marco Verratti, Claudio Marchisio, Thiago Motta, Antonio Di Natale, or Ciro Immobile have never played a single World Cup knockout game in their career. The last time Italy played a knockout game in this competition, Lionel Messi, who right now holds the record for most appearances in the World Cup history, played just over 90 minutes in the competition. But how could Italy, a football superpower with 4 World Cups, end up in a situation like this? It all started over 30 years ago. In the 90s and early 2000s, Italian football was on top of the world. Italian teams dominated in Europe. Serie A was full of stars. Diego Maradona, Marco van Basten, Zinedine Zidane, Ronaldo Nazario, Ruud Gullit, Gabriele Batistuta, Alessandro Del Piero, Francesco Totti. The best players in the world played in Italy. The majority of Ballon d'Or winners came from Serie A. But in 2006, everything collapsed. Juventus, Milan, Lazio, Fiorentina, and Regina were accused of systematic match fixing and manipulation of referee assignments. Juventus were relegated to the Serie B. Other clubs got point deductions. At this exact moment, Serie A stopped being the best. It had lost its prestige and credibility, and soon it would also lose its quality. Many people blame Calciopoli for the decline of Italian football, but if you look more closely, Italian football was slowly dying anyway. In the 90s, football started to become global. Serie A was the biggest league in the world. The demand for television rights was huge, and Italian clubs were generating a lot of money through them. However, they barely earned anything from other sources of income. Most of the stadiums in Italy are owned by cities and municipalities rather than the clubs themselves, which hugely impacts their matchday revenue. With football turning into a global sport, big clubs were becoming more than just clubs. They were becoming global brands with fans all around the world. Manchester United and Real Madrid understood this early and capitalized on this opportunity. However, Italian clubs were earning so much money from TV rights that they didn't feel like focusing on other sources of income was necessary. The clubs became too dependent on their revenue from one source. It was not sustainable. Soon the consequences started to appear. Fiorentina went bankrupt. Teams like Lazio, Parma, and Roma had big financial problems as well. Soon the issues spread to the biggest clubs too. However, they could still mask their financial problems with performances on the pitch because they still had strong teams. Milan won the Champions League in 2007, Inter in 2010, but their squads were aging and they didn't have the money to rebuild their teams properly. But it wasn't just the league that was declining, it was also the national team. In 2006, they reached the top and won the World Cup for the first time since 1982. But that team was already aging. Most of the players were either over 30 or just about to hit 30. Out of the players who made an appearance in the final, only Daniele De Rossi was younger than 25 years old. After an uninspiring Euro 2008 campaign, Italy went to the World Cup 2010. In a group with Paraguay, New Zealand, and Slovakia, they were seen as clear favorites, but instead, they finished bottom of the group. Only 9 players out of the title-winning team remained in the squad. Most of them were past their prime. It was clear that the new generation of players weren't good enough to replace them. But it's not like Italy didn't have talents, they just weren't given enough chances to develop. It has always been difficult for young players in Italy to get a proper chance at big clubs. The pressure for results and immediate success always made it difficult. However, young players could always move to smaller clubs where they would get much more minutes. Many of Italy's greatest players came through and made their first senior appearances for smaller clubs, but the Bosman rule changed everything. Clubs were allowed to sign players within the EU without any restrictions. More and more foreign players were coming to Serie A, which made it much harder for homegrown players to break through. The financial difficulties made things even worse. Big clubs couldn't afford to sign global superstars, so they were forced to focus more on their academy. In theory, that sounds like something that would help young players, but in practice, it only made it harder for them. Big clubs started stealing the local talent from smaller clubs, and once they came through their ranks, they weren't given the chance in the first team anyway. A talented kid kid from Lombardia who could have been scouted by a club like Atalanta, developed in their academy and got his chance in the first team, was snatched by a club like Inter instead, and after years in their academy, he most likely ended up ignored and sent on a series of loans because the first team manager was under pressure of being sacked and needed immediate results. Jurgen Klinsmann's quote that if Lamine Yamal or Jamal Musiala were Italian, they would be currently playing in Serie B might seem like an exaggeration, but in fact, it perfectly describes the reality of Italian football. After the 2010 World Cup, it was clear that something needed to be changed. The federation hired Italian legend Roberto Baggio to take a look at the development of young talents. He traveled around the world. He went to Spain, Germany, France, or South America to see how they work with young players there, and based on his observations, he wrote a 900-page report. His main conclusion was that the kids are being overloaded with unnecessary complex tactical ideas from a very young age instead of focusing more on improving their technique and creativity. He waited 5 hours to present his report, and after months of hard work, he was given only 15 minutes to present it. He was furious. He had worked so hard trying to rebuild Italian football that was dying right in front of his eyes, only to be completely ignored by a system without any vision and accountability. In 2014, they got knocked out of the group stage again. In 2018, they failed to qualify for the World Cup for the first time since 1958 after losing the playoff to Sweden. 4 years later, they lost another playoff to North Macedonia, and this year, they lost to Bosnia on penalties. Before 2018, in their history, Italy had missed only 2 World Cups. Now they have missed 3 in a row. After every single one of those failures, the reaction was the same. The president of the federation resigns, the manager is replaced, but nothing really changes. A new president is elected and he doesn't change anything. He stays in his position as long as he can until another huge failure, until the backlash is so strong that he has to resign. This cycle continues over and over again. The next generation of Italian players are going through the exact same system that failed all the previous ones. Nothing has changed. Nothing is going to change.